up, everybody? Welcome back to Neon Trash. You got Tommy the Hammer hanging out with Hayes, Rocket, BC, Dale, and of course yours truly, Tommy the Hammer. Tonight is BC's pick. What you got up your sleeve tonight, BC?
So, to mark my return to the channel after a long time, I brought what is widely regarded as one of the best Japanese films of all time. I've clocked in a couple hundred Japanese films. It's my favorite Japanese film of all time, and it is Harakiri. It is from 1962. It's directed by Masaki Kobayashi, and it's also starring Tetsuya Nakadai, who's one of the best actors from Japan. And this is like right up there with like Seven Samurai. Like most people, there's a few movies in your head that you throw around for Japan, especially classic Japan. And this is one of them. And I've learned that no one else here has seen it. So I was like,
Nope.
I mean,
Not at all. Sorry.
I feel very confident that everyone will love it, but I also know like that they'll take something from it that like it's a cinematic, you know, like achievement that needs to be seen by everyone, as far as I'm concerned.
I wouldn't expect anything less from BC for his return pick here on the channel. I can't wait to check this out. I know all of us are anxious to check out this
Very
black and white awesome movie here. And without further ado, you guys know this routine. I'm gonna dig up a trailer. Peep that shit! We'll be right back, motherfuckers.
罪なくして死刑を滅ぼされ奈落の底にあえぎうごめいている浪人者の悲哀など異色に憂いのない人には所詮わからん。世まいごとはそれだけか。武士の面目などと申す者は単にその上辺だけを語る者。控えろ継母半四郎。どうしたどうした。
さあ、もう時刻ゆえあげましょう。
いいかい嬉しいが感動よごめんつかまつ。
It's a slow burn, and at first, when the movie began, I had trouble kind of like
Engaging it.
well, I mean, I engaged the movie, but I had trouble, I don't know, understanding where it was going to go. And that's how it was with the movie Woman in the Dunes, another film that BC had showed us. But if I understand the movies that BC brings to the plate here, it's always going to be like that. It's always going to be a movie where it challenges you from the get-go. And that's what this movie was for me. I mean, right off the rip, you know, I'm trying to understand the plot, I'm trying to understand these characters, I'm trying to read the subtitles, and I'm trying to put it all together. And you know, that's not to say I don't watch, you know, international movies with subtitles and, you know, art house films where, you know, it takes a moment for you to kind of like really, you know, gather your thoughts with the overall movie. But once this film really built its momentum, and I feel like the characters were fleshed out perfectly. The actors in this movie are top tier.
Very.
You know, in my opinion, I feel like everyone on screen was engaging in their own way, and I felt like, I don't know, I gravitated towards them. I liked everyone on screen, even the characters that you weren't meant to necessarily like. I found myself going, you know what? I like seeing what they're doing on screen. If you're not into a movie that slows its roll a little bit and you want a more kinetic execution, then this won't be the film for you. But if you like things like Alfred Hitchcock, Stanley Kubrick, and you like cinematic nuances with the execution and the focus on the cinematography and maybe the narrative itself, then you will gravitate towards this movie. So, I don't know, I mean, I like the film overall. It's a long movie, and towards the end, maybe,
hours.
I mean, maybe I was dozing off towards the end, but it had nothing to do with the narrative and the execution. It had everything to do with me drinking.
Not at all. It's an honorable man. He tells the truth.
But, you know, the Criterion Collection, I mean, these motherfuckers, they pick movies that are noteworthy for a fucking reason. You know what I'm saying? And this is another movie in their collection that's noteworthy for a reason. And I like this film a lot. I compared it to the Stanley Kubrick movie Paths of Glory for a reason, because it challenges, maybe a culture. You know what I'm saying? In this case, the samurai. And for Paths of Glory, it challenges that whole concept of war. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of people that come into the concept of war as honorable. You know what I'm saying? And it's, you know, you're a man's man if you're a soldier. You know, and in this case, it was you're a man's man if you're a samurai. You know what I'm saying? But it pushes aside that fucking conservative clutter for a second and lets you look at it in this kind of human, tone. You can look at it as the person that might have questions for the samurai, might have questions for the soldier.
Damn. This was an absolutely incredible film. It really was. It like you said, it is a slow burn because it's a wonderful conglomeration of like mystery and suspense, that you think, I mean, you have your suspicions as to what else it might be. Like, is this a revenge tale? Is this just like, a tragedy? Like, what else is going on here? And that kind of adds to that mystery layer. And like, yeah, you have all these questions, but, as long as you stay engaged with it, they slowly are answered. And as you peel the layers of the onion away, like, you keep finding things out and finding more out, and characters you may have held a certain disdain for in the beginning, suddenly you're like, oh man, it really like tugs the heartstrings. You're like, fuck, you really understand what was going on, so they give you just enough to let you form these opinions, but then they turn all that on their head, and it's, I don't know, it really stirs you around and makes you think all kinds of things, and man, it reminds me, you're talking about how, like, Seven Samurai was, like, the glorification of the samurai. Like, this is that, like, seedy underbelly. Like, the gritty, often too true, not so honorable side of things, It reminds me a little bit of Training Day in that aspect, to where, normally you've got your, like, good buddy cops where the guys they're gonna get the bad guys like lethal weapon or something like that.
Yeah.
But like a Training Day really shows you that dark, seedy underside of like, corruption, and what's supposed to be something good and wholesome, can be completely opposite. Like, this really shows that, yeah, like that there might be, glory in battle and dying honorably there. Like, you take that away, and what's left? You've got people like scrambling to like prove their worth or justify their existence, just doing anything to like keep their honor, not lose face, and it's and in doing so, they were taking none of that. It's completely dishonorable. It's absolutely a total farce.
I mean, being a practitioner of the martial arts myself, and seeing all the stuff that they were doing and what I've learned, it actually, all shows in here. The way their hands were on their swords, the way they were bowing, the way they were kneeling, the way they were sitting, their footwork, everything.
Yeah, all that traditional.
All of it was all traditional, and it was in here, and I'm like, yes, this is what you want to watch.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
And with adding on to what Tom and John here said about that there's layers, there's a story. This movie was shot in black and white. But in black and white, in between it all, there's a whole lot of gray. You gotta look at everything. You gotta look at and see the story, see everything that's going on in this as it all unfolds. Yes, it takes time, but it's definitely draws you in, drew me in for sure. And that's why I told BC, I'm like, this is a slow burner I would like to watch more and more again. More like
definitely needs a rewatch.
Yeah, and then with the whole idea of possibly with compare it to a movie. There's a modern movie that came out, I don't know how long ago, a few years back, The 13 Assassins.
Oh, the Kashmike.
Yeah. I think it kind of runs along the lines of that, where it was a whole thing about samurais and honor, but at the same time there was something dirty going on in the background. Something gritty, dishonorable was still going on. So that's what I thought about with this, was something more modern with that. And the fact that also too, just like how the cinematography and the two big scenes I really liked were the cinematography, what was going on in the background was the grave site, the gravestones.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh, that was so. Yeah, I'm like, wow.
Gorgeous.
I'm like, I really like this.
Yeah,
and then when they're both walking down the path and the bamboo are just swaying.
To a certain extent, it's kind of important to I guess, lay out the trajectory of my Japanese film watching journey, And so, I kind of went into Japanese films, watching people like Sono, like Miike, that are people that push the boundaries through the extremes, really, whether it's perversity or violence or whatever, and that drew me into the films of the country. And then at that point, I just learned that, I had a deep appreciation for the culture. I grew an attachment to certain actors and directors that I came across. And so now, throughout the pandemic, I joined a platform called Letterboxd, which you can it's like social media for movie lovers. I can review movies on there. And in January, I helped facilitate this challenge called Japanuary. So the challenge was, the way I set it up, I listed all these Japanese directors. I gave ideas of what movies you could watch from them, and everybody that's a part of this community could take part, and lots of people took part. And what's funny is that people thought that I was this master, that I knew all of this stuff about Japanese cinema, but the challenge was just as much for me as for everyone else, because I knew there was so much more I needed to see. And so, along the way, I delved deeper into Kobayashi's filmography, and I fell in love with his work. And I have to say, when I first watched Harakiri, even just from the opening scene where it just it's the camera is closing in on this samurai armor with this fog around it. Immediately I was I feel like I might be watching one of the best movies ever made. It was literally a minute in, I was oh gosh, this is... And as it went on, yes, it's a slow burn, but nothing in this movie felt unnecessary. Every single visual element, narrative element, everything felt like it had a purpose, and it furthered the overarching themes of this movie. And ultimately, this is a very humanistic tale. It shows you the dark sides and the great sides of humanity. We see this man who, despite being poor, he still he cares for his daughter, he cares for his grandkid, he cares for his son-in-law. He does what he can, or he does whatever he can to support them. And at the same time you see like this political side of these people who, you know, maybe on their own like aren't necessarily terrible too. Like they might have families, they might have things that they care about, but ultimately they're a part of a group that they feel like they have to uphold the image of, and that still exists today. I mean, if we were to look at politics, there's Democrats and Republicans that are never going to see eye to eye simply based off of their label, but it can go even more micro level than that. It can be occupation, someone that's college educated and not college educated. Anyone could take a lot from this movie or be moved by it.
Yeah, you don't need to be like hep to Japanese history or society or anything. You can seriously just watch this, and like just the human element is enough to be relatable for anyone, honestly. And anything you might be confused about is ultimately explained.
Yeah, it's
like
all partakes in this.
there was like little nuances in how they were acting and approaching things that Matt and I saw, because we've done some martial training. So we can say, oh, we know why they're doing X, Y, or Z. But ultimately, like you really don't need to know any of that to understand what's happening with this film.
Because at its core, it's a very human and relatable.
It really is.
Yes.
It really is. So don't be put off by this. And oh man, this is some super old, weird niche Japanese thing. Like I'm not gonna understand. It's like no. You give this a chance, and like it'll hook you in, because it's like I said, it's very visually appealing. Like none of it's overacted, so that doesn't put you off to anything. And as soon as you're 5-10 minutes in, like you're like, what's going on here?
Akadai is out of this world, and I will say one of my personal biggest blind spots for Japanese cinema is the Human Condition trilogy. It's 3 movies charting, they're all humanistic tales. They revolve around war and corruption and all these things, and it's from the same exact director with the same exact actor. So that is next on my list, and now that I've finished my classes, it's what I'm tackling. I'm sure it's obvious from the get-go what my star count will be, but like, to quickly recap, like from a technical perspective, if you're someone that doesn't even care about the narrative, this movie's, it's perfect. It's not, there's nothing that you could fault it for. And then when you add this narrative that's timeless, that can reach across borders, that can impact you on a personal level. I mean, I personally, like, I don't know what else you could ask for from a movie. I don't. And so for me, I mean, it's one of the easiest 10 out of 10s I can give. It's a certified classic. I'm convinced that even if you don't love it, you'll appreciate it.
Let me tell you, you said that you really can't find any fault with this movie. I can find one tiny little fault.
Oh, fuck.
Uh-oh. It's the most ridiculous thing in the world, but it was a little tough to read the subtitles at times. Because just the way they weren't outlined very well. Like normally it's that, the traditional meme font, which is white lettering with a black outline, which is meant to, be easy to read. They did that, but that outline was a little on the fuzzy side, and so sometimes if you had the white background, like where the main character's sitting on that die, basically, where he's supposedly going to commit Harakiri, sometimes the white lettering can kind of get lost in the background a little bit. I mean, it didn't make anything impossible to read, but every once in a while I found myself squinting a little bit. I mean, it could be also part of the alcohol I've consumed, possibly.
Or the age.
But
well, it's also not the movie, sir.
maybe I need some trifocals already.
You could argue it's Criterion's fault.
Right? So, honestly, this had nothing with the film itself
That's
whatsoever.
hilarious, though.
But, I don't know, that popped in my head. But honestly, like I said, that has nothing to do with the movie whatsoever. That was a production thing.
No, that's a great thing, because people buying this, hey, there you go.
Just get
If you're blind as a bat.
Maybe turn up your contrast. I don't know. But I mean, for the film itself, I can't give it anything less than 10 stars, because it was a fantastic film.
My esteemed colleagues have all said, I mean, I concur. I agree, totally. They got my vote, and I give this also a solid 10.
Oh, son of a biscuit. Ooh,
Keep it quick. Keep it simple.
Let's go to Dale.
So straight to Dale. Dalers, do it up, man. Star count, homie.
10 out of 10.
Bam! Bam!
Easy.
Easy peasy. All right. Well, I feel like I'm about to be the old smacking the boner down.
So you're gonna give it an 11?
Yeah. Smacking the boner up in that case. I think it's a great movie. I don't think it's a 10 out of 10 only because it's a preference thing. For me, I feel like I've seen a lot of movies that deal with this subject matter before. So like that thunder was stolen from me slightly
How dare you,
when I was
sir?
watching the movie, and that's not to say that I didn't gravitate towards the characters or the narrative, or the soundtrack with this movie was eclectic and industrial and experimental in its own way. So there's like a lot of things about the movie where I can go, oh my God, this is great, this is excellent, this is top tier. But for me, I gotta say this is a solid 8. What do you want to challenge me about?
Ding, ding, ding.
Well, when
Start it off, homie.
you're talking about,
Since
you know, you're just gonna throw out there that Flight of the Navigator.
Wait a minute.
Oh,
This has nothing to do with what we're
this
talking
was okay.
Harakiri.
Hurry. We're not touching on The Last Starfighter yet.
Get you on that.
Oh, we are going to get me on that.
Anyway,
All right.
so Harakiri. Dang. You talk about it being so long. Like, I just don't see what you could cut out of it.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I didn't say it was long. I just said it was a slow burn.
I think you might just be viewing it from more of a 21st century film viewer standpoint, honestly. Like, you gotta think that, 1962, this is almost 60 years old, like...
Paths of Glory is much more specifically focused on the conflicts within a military system, whereas this is like a whole entire social system.
That's a good point.
And I think
That's a
that
good point.
maybe you gravitate towards the military one more, but I think like the reason that this one, like I said, like this isn't just like a Ben thing, like this is Ben's favorite movie, like this is like most Japanese film goers, film scholars, whether they're Japanese themselves or American.
I feel like my review, 8,
8.5 is still a good rating.
I was going to say, I don't think I was off. You guys were like, it was 100.
Well, I think that everyone had the same reaction I did the first time I watched it, where it's just like, this is different.
But why wasn't I then? Like, what was the...
You probably had expectations into going to this.
Maybe.
Stuff.
A person that thinks that older is better or the first experience is better. Well, no, it's not. It's more about, like, a person's personal opinion. All right, boys, you bouncing?
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's getting late.
It is.
All right, well, fair enough.
You know, sometimes here on Neon Trash, we can get a little bit heated with our discussions, and that's bound to happen with so many eccentric personalities under one camera lens. But with that being said, me falling asleep during this movie is completely unacceptable, and there is only one way that I can make amends for such an atrocity. Seppuku. Oh, fuck! Oh my God! It's the only honorable thing to do.